Zambia is people that will look into the to and AI shop. You'd have say mine is very low, takes into account with being one of the barriers in the organizations have some they don't embrace new up with that. It had been hammered into my head. This is the cheapest source of power. Not a bad system that stopped working in a year. And it comes at night when it's myself as an advocate for solar percent. And this is before the prices go your mind and telling you not to do so. But I did have a bias and I was skeptical of the technology. So how does this affect mining? 5. Okay. You can tell that there's been a significant often here and said what was causing privatized. See if that's ZCCM price. 2008 it came down it to explain it to us. The second one was the Chinese down, the copper price line. You can actually see if all it didn't add up. Fine, it's produced by broken side. In case you can't see it there, there's 80 to 84, 80 Indonesia. They started down by 2010 to has circled at the bottom. There's something even more. So I went to look at that because they couldn't afford it. So it speaks to a culture of waste in my home around power consumption. I worked in a number of these mines. That would be the general culture is the mining people are interested in moving rocks out of the ground and production targets. They're not particularly interested in the cost of the production. That's kind of like an ancillary issue. So it's not really treated like a business sometimes. So the chart you see over there has got a couple dotted. So it's got the chart and then it's got the lines across there. So it's showing the US moving from $3,874 per ton production cost, C1, in 1984 to 1,562. So they were able to bring down the cost of producing copper by 60%. If you look at Zambia, we only needed one line because it didn't really change. It was a fractional difference over 40 years. So I found some images that talk about 40 years difference. In the top left, that was a high performance car in 1984. And on the right hand side, that's one in 2025. That was a top end computer in 1984. And on the right side, you've got a Mac now. That was a cell phone in 1984 versus the iPhone today. There's been tremendous change over that period of time. Even 10 years, there's been tremendous technological advancement. So how we still end up in a situation where our production cost is the same is baffling and it needs further investigation. So talking about the bias, you could go and say this to mining people, just like me. I was like, no, ZESCO is the best way to power your home. You can see no other way until you finally break through. And I hope forums like this one will encourage people, not just in mining, but other sectors to say, we need to relook at our production. Yes, this is how we've previously done it, but I think it's time we did a complete review of what it is that we're doing because there's benefit to be had here. The bias you always hear around mining in Zambia, they'll say it's expensive to import into Zambia. But that's unusual because that should ideally create a lot of backloads that allow low-cost exports. But I've never heard anyone say that. I don't know what the economists think. We'll come back to that one. We've been told that power is expensive. Then at the same time, ZESCO tell us that no. Power is actually sold for below its production cost to you and to mines. When I looked at the global cost of power and what they pay in other countries, it's a fraction of the cost. ZESCO is underpriced. It's so underpriced. We're told fuel is expensive. But here's something interesting. A lot of the mines import their fuel. So they're not actually subjected to the same prices you and I face here. They're at that scale where they can do that. They're as large as an oil marketing company. So I don't know why the fuel is expensive. Another one is that critical skills are lacking. So I started doing some research and I found in a number of the top universities globally where they teach mining engineering, chemical engineering, you actually find Zambians lecturing there. So while we have a critical skills gap in one area, we also export skills and experience. If you look at particularly engineers who work globally, they tend to be mining engineers out of Zambia because they have a different skill set. I'm told they are very much get it done people. So they are sought after skill set. You find mining engineers in Australia. I met them going to Saudi Arabia, all over the world. But somehow we're told that skills are lacking on this end. Dealing with the bias. Looking for a volunteer, somebody knowledgeable, semi-knowledgeable in mining, anybody? to take a few guesses for me? They're just going to answer one or two questions. Don't be shy. Is there somebody here? Okay, super. The way I was doing this, I was saying that you've got 4 factors, okay, that make up the cost of production, like 4 key inputs. All right. So what do you think they are? And how much do you think they contribute to the cost of producing copper? So let's list the 4 factors.
Okay, so this is the perspective.
Yeah.
So what
Power. Yep. CapEx. Okay. Uh-huh.
support with that, perhaps I can also add your other so water as well as fuel. I think fuel come
Okay.
third.
So I've got 3 from you so far. I've got power, CapEx,
Yes.
fuel.
Yes.
Well, I need
Pretty.
one more factor.
Uh, Cost of import. Oh, no, no, no. Tax. Yes. I think tax is also definitely one of them.
Labor. Thank you.
The-
Okay.
Well,
I'll extend the question now. So we've got 4 key factors here. In fact, we've ended up with 5, but that's okay. We've said power, capex, fuel, tax, and labor. Okay? So we're going to put Zambia side by side against the US. Okay? Power cost. Is Zambia higher or lower than the US? Yeah, I'd say it's lower. Capex. Would it be higher or lower? Why? It's be lower. If you're an international mine borrowing for expansion, it will be lower. Yeah. Yes, please.
So when you're doing exploration,
Mhm.
and or depending on the type of mine you have, if it's an underground mine, then the capex will be very high. Okay, because there's development you have to do, and then if you're looking for new prospects, you have to do exploration. So those are 2 different things with an open pit mine. Yes, so it depends on what type of mining is in the US and what type. Most of the Zambian mines are underground mines. So if you take Konkola, which pumps a lot of water, you find that the capex, including just energy, is more than an open pit mine. So it's
I would partially agree with you there, but FQM, do they operate any underground operations here?
no, most of them are open pits.
And they're the single largest producer of copper now.
In Zambia, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, they're on the 24 largest producers globally, but I'll come back to that one. So, no? Cost. So it would be the same. CapEx, yeah. Fuel, would it be cheaper, same, more expensive in the US? Yes, equal. The taxes, are they higher or lower here or the US? Lower here. For the retail consumer, yeah. For the mega mine, the labor, is it higher or lower here? Okay. So here's the interesting part of the equation. Zambia versus USA on the different factors. Power, Zambia holds the advantage. CapEx is the same. All the equipment to be procured from the same place, from the same capital pool anyway. Fuel, probably the same. Taxes, lower here. Labor, lower here. But somehow we get a higher production cost. Why is that? I've never been able to understand it. No, actually, Zambia has some of the best grade profiles. Um, no, 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 no. It's a mix because there are mines like Lubambe that were at some point 2.2 was their target, and they claimed that Mingomba it was as high as 4.9. Yeah. So it varies, but they publish it or claim to. So there's an EITI report. It's kind of backed up, but there is some information there. So I think they are pretty transparent. I'm happy to take this one offline. We can continue it. Jetty, please go ahead.
For production methodology, which brings in efficiencies. So there are different technologies available, and you find that the latest one will be maybe more expensive technology, but then it generally, in many cases, very, very efficient. And in most cases, we are behind there, and the efficiencies really matter.
Now, final slide. They're giving me signals here, like the Oscars. The mic will turn off and that. So, this is what I discovered and surprised me. Labor, services, and stores make up 75% of the cost of producing copper. So, stores. So when I asked about this, and I was like, what? Stores? Yes. So a lot of the equipment, if you buy one item, the packaging units just don't work. The cost of shipping it becomes twice as much. A lot of the vendors of international goods don't stock them here and have no interest in stocking them. A lot of the products that could be made here are imported anyway. A vast number of the services, from electrical services, geotech, are imported even when they can be provided locally. So it has a huge cost. 75% of the cost is linked to those three things: stores, labor, services. Every time the kwacha goes up, for kwacha denominated salaries, the cost of production goes down. So that's clearly not a factor. But the services and the stores are massive. Fuel, you can see, and electricity are very thin elements within there. When you actually go to a mine, there isn't, okay, you've got the dump trucks that are kind of moving there, but there isn't a lot of activity. It's not really a hive, it's highly mechanized. So things have changed. I've got the signal here. So what about this? Okay. The point of this is to open up debate and discussion around improved ways of mining and production in Zambia. My firm, MCA Consulting, does data and analytics into cost reduction strategies, particularly in the mining and agri sectors. We shouldn't accept things as this is how it's always been. Thank you very much.
Mafipe had assured me that he would be very brief, but I think we can all agree that it was very thought-provoking. And I must warn you that FQM is coming up right after you. So, but no, really interesting insights, issues of culture of West, interesting correlation there being demonstrated. The relationship between the cost of production and copper prices and how that is inverse. So very counterintuitive. All right. To make up for time, allow me to just go on the next speakers. As I mentioned, this is FQM. So they'll be giving us a case study of how they have moved towards greener and more circular mining, basically taking us through FQM's decarbonization journey. And our presenters will be Jed Goldstein. He is Zambia infrastructure lead at First Quantum Minerals. Jed is an infrastructure lead. His key focus areas include collaborating with Zambia State Power Utility ZESCO. So something relating to what you were talking about, Mafipi, about the cost of energy. Anyway, he also works on ensuring that there is sufficient power generation for the country's industrial expansion, developing private-public partnerships that enhance key transportation corridors, and he's focused on efforts to incentivize local content creation across the mineral value chain. So Jed, please do come to the front. He will be joined by Carl Urich. I am butchering your name. Please bear with me. I know that is not the pronunciation. Nonetheless, Carl is Group Infrastructure Technical Advisor with FQM, and he's been with FQM for 17 years. He's involved in issues of haul, trolley, track systems, battery electric vehicle technology and trials, dynamic and static charging systems for the battery electric vehicle. His role also includes looking at issues of the volt network, distribution design, electric excavators, and issues of blasting, drilling. All right, so I'm not too sure who's starting, but Jed, over to you, and I believe Carl will come in next. Thank you.
That's good. Thanks.
Great.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Very pleased to be here representing First Quantum. So if we could get this presentation up. Great, thank you. Oh, perfect. Okay, thank you. Oh, it's all the way up. Okay. Great. So again, here representing First Quantum, I'm the infrastructure lead. I'm based in our Lusaka office, looking at countrywide infrastructure efforts that we're engaged in. So just to step back for a moment to give you a little bit of background on First Quantum. First Quantum was started in the 1990s, and mining is not inherently circular. We all know that. But we actually started with circular thinking built into our DNA. Our first project here in Zambia was Bwana Mkubwa, which was tailings. So we ended up turning waste into value. And that's how we eventually, set down on the road of becoming one of the leading copper producers in the world. So we have very much circular thinking embedded in how we do things. So we find value in what's overlooked by others. We're always looking for ways to become more efficient and to improve our production processes to remain globally competitive. Today, I'll walk through how we apply some of that circular thinking at First Quantum, and we'll present a concrete case study to you, which my colleague Carl will share. We can move to the next slide. Great. Again, as I mentioned earlier, there is a natural tension that exists between mining and circularity. So mining is extractive. Circularity closes loops, but the relationship isn't necessarily oppositional. It actually both enable one another. So what we know is that copper and nickel, two elements, two metals that First Quantum is involved with here in Zambia, are materials that will power renewable energy, that will power electric vehicles, that will also greatly contribute to low emission technology around the world. And so how we extract that copper is very important to the overall mission that copper and nickel have, which is around creating those closed loops. A good example that I like to say is if you are getting a cup of water, you don't want to drink clean water out of a dirty glass. You want to drink that water out of a clean glass. So we tried as hard as we can to ensure that the copper that we extract, the copper that we produce, is produced in as environmentally friendly of a way as possible. So just to set the stage for how important copper is to this global energy transition, in the next 25 years, based on forecasts, we will need to mine more copper than has been mined in all of human history so far. That's a lot of copper to power those closed loops and to power the global energy future. Electric vehicles use 4 times more copper than internal combustion engines. Then wind turbines use quite a bit of copper. Additionally, with all of the new data centers for artificial intelligence applications and the strain that places on energy grids, you need a tremendous amount of copper to transmit all of that energy. So for some circular thinking that First Quantum engages with, the circular practices in action, So we reuse 83% of all water consumed at Sentinel Mine, which is in Columbia. We also recycle all of our waste oil, and it's filtered and reused again as fuel. We've reduced electricity consumption. We've reduced diesel consumption by electrifying our mining haul fleet, which Carl, my colleague, will get into. And then also we place a great amount of attention on localizing as much content as possible to try to keep value creation here in Zambia. I'll now soon shift over to Carl, but the technology that I'm very excited about, and I'm thrilled that Carl could be here to share with you, has to do with our Electra-Haul trolley technology. So using fairly standard technology, which is seen in streetcars around the world, where you have a pantograph and you have a train, connected to the electricity system. We've done the same with our mining fleet, and First Quantum is the leader, and that technology was born out of Zambian innovation. So I will turn over to Carl to talk about that, and then I'll join you again in a moment. Thanks.
Good afternoon, all ladies and gents. Okay, briefly. We've just heard the previous presentation, one of the main topics, productivity. Well, this little picture on the left there, on the right there of an electro-haul vehicle is one thing that shows it. We are the largest fleet in the world of ultra-class vehicles, Sentinel and the now closed Panama mine. That vehicle on the right is a 400-ton payload, which equates to 80 adult bull elephants, just to put it in perspective. By just going back to those vehicles, those 400 tonners, and we run 100, 150, 200, 250s, and 400s in our fleet. By using our electro-haul technology, we haul up 10% inclines, which is a standard normal incline in an open cast mine. On a diesel vehicle, which is inherently 11 kilometers an hour due to the gearbox ratios, the electric haul vehicle comes up at 23 kilometers an hour. Productivity speaks for itself. In 2024, we traveled 450,000 kilometers on trolley lines on two mines, Sentinel and Kansanshi, equivalent to approximately 10 times around the world. That's all on electricity. 300.7 million liters of diesel saved, significantly reducing operating costs. 10,000 tons of CO2 emissions avoided, real world progress. And faster cycle times, as I said earlier, lead to higher productivity, uphill average speeds, there they are. We are also trialing a battery electric vehicle, total battery. There's no diesel component in there whatsoever. It is interoperable across all OEMs. High capacity, 6 units versus 3. And on our trolley lines, we build approximately 1,000 meters in 4 weeks. All done. Safe, simple, fast to deploy. Future ready for battery electric. As you can see, that is the battery truck there at Kansanshi, and the pantograph is fitted, which I'll get onto now. Speed upgrades on flat trolley to 40 kilometers an hour. And we are doing a lot of R&D on regenerative power on the braking on a descent at 10%, which currently the BEV incorporates internally. That is how part of the charging circuit works. That's yours. One thing on the BEV, is I'm very involved with OEMs and ourselves to improve the charging circuits, because you could well imagine there's a trade-off between net vehicle mass and gross vehicle mass, and batteries, as you know, are all pretty expensive and very heavy. And a BEV vehicle, only the life of the battery is when it drops to 80% capacity, it has to be replaced. When that happens, that battery we will put into other applications through renewables to drive pumps and various other things. So there's another bit of circularity for you. But yeah, there's a lot of work going on, and we lead in it, I believe. Thank you.
Thanks. So I just want to end with, to power these electric trolleys, you might ask yourself, how can Zambia power the electrification of a mining fleet, given that we have power deficits that are quite extreme right now? And we fully acknowledge the power deficits, and we're doing our part to try to alleviate some of those deficits, working closely with ZESCO. ZESCO is our most important strategic partner. And I just want to frame how important ZESCO is. And I know that there might be a temptation for mining companies or private industry to try to create an island around themselves and to isolate themselves from the greater problems of the national grid. But that doesn't satisfy part of what a mining company's responsibility is to the host country where it operates. If we just create an island of prosperity in Solwezi, an island of prosperity in Kolumbila, that doesn't help Zambia's industrial development. What we want to do is we want to use mining to be a catalyst for greater economic growth and greater opportunity for the entire country. And we can't do that from behind the meter. It needs to be done on the electricity grid. And so that's something that First Quantum is incredibly committed to. Right now, only, I think, 45% of the country is connected to the electricity grid. There's still quite a ways to go, and in order to get more of the country connected, you need a strong ZESCO, you need a strong transmission operator to facilitate that. So we're working with independent power producers to connect them into the ZESCO grid, and they'll be able to build these projects off the back of our offtake agreements. And then we're also working with ZESCO to help with grid stability initiatives. So when you're adding all of this renewable energy into the generation mix, you need a way to keep the grid stable, because the renewables are intermittent. So if you have solar and you have wind, solar is only active 8 hours per day. Wind is active depending on wind patterns, and that plays havoc on the grid. And so what's needed is a bunch of infrastructure to help support the introduction of all of these renewables. And again, Zambia is so gifted or endowed in abundant energy possibility. You have wonderful water resources. You have the best battery in the world, which is Lake Kariba. And then additionally, you have plenty of sun. And so in terms of creating a very, very compelling destination for producing the copper that will power the world's renewable revolution, what a wonderful thing to be able to do that using renewable energy rather than using diesel and oil and gas, et cetera. So we're very committed to bringing more renewables online and helping the grid absorb that. So with that, I'll just say that we're committed to creating value locally. We are open to partnerships, open to opportunities in that regard. Yeah, thanks for having us.
Do you mind just taking a sip, please? Thank you. All right. No, thank you so much. Those were very interesting insights about the innovations that are being done, very thought-provoking as well, and encouraging. And I must say, because earlier there was a comment about planning for cities, what you've done with Kalumbila is actually quite impressive. All right. In the interest of time, we're only going to take about 2 questions. Please be as brief as possible before we transition into the next case studies on manufacturing. Let's have the mic ready. Give us your name, organization, and whom you are posing that question to. All right, right there, the top.
Thank you so much for those wonderful insights that you've shared, both from the first presentation and from FQM. My name is Richard Zulu. I'm from Zambia Association of Manufacturers. So in the first presentation, Mr. Mafipe did highlight to say 75% of the costs in the mining sector come from services. I'll dwell on the services part. And in the presentation that Mr. Kao did make, he mentioned that they are working on having a truck that is fully battery operated. And they're working with a number of OEMs to do that. And I just wanted to find out, is there any deliberate initiative to ensure that the services of replacing the batteries, maintaining the batteries, the skill set that is required that the OEMs do bring is being transferred to the local entities to ensure that we reduce the amount of services that we take from foreign entities?
All right, thank you so much. Who wants to take that?
Can you hear me?
Let's test.
Can you hear me now? That's it. Okay, to answer that in a nutshell, you missed one key word there. We are trialing a BEV with an OEM. We haven't bought it. However, personnel at Kansanshi are all Zambian personnel who are working on that vehicle together with the OEM being Japanese. So that technology they're gaining now, and if this vehicle proves to be successful, we will roll out further. It is only once it belongs to us that we can then modify, research, develop different battery packages, different charging methods, static and dynamic, etc. Right at the moment, we've had this trial going for a year. We are finding various problems. It is a proof of concept vehicle. And once we're all happy, then things will start moving forward. So it doesn't actually belong to us now. It is here on loan from Japan. Thanks.
All right, thank you so much. One last question, unfortunately. Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. Comparing the two presentations, the one from Mafipe and the one you've put forward from FQM, question is, would you say that FQM is the lowest production cost producer of copper in the world? Even with the electrification of your haulage trucks and stuff?
No, I don't exactly know the statistics, but I would guess that rather than comparing Zambia to the U.S. is quite an expensive jurisdiction as well, I believe. Probably a better, well, a comparison that would be more interesting to me would be a place like Chile, which I think produces 3 million tons of copper plus, and so I would love to see how the cost structure is different. But I know that the Kansanshi mine and the Trident mine are certainly not the lowest cost producers. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for being engaged, and thank you, Mafipe, and thank you to Jed and Carl. I know there's a panel discussion coming later on that Mafipe will be moderating, but Carl and Jed, you're free to take your seats. We'll move now into the manufacturing case studies, and I would love to call Mr. Kalpesh Patel. He is the chairman for Surya Group Limited, and he'll be taking us through Surya Biofuels, the benefits from developing a circular business to produce ethanol from waste molasses.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Just allow me to introduce our group. We, as a Surya Group, are wholly dedicated to completely eco-cycle and eco-friendly company providing energy and fuel solutions. Our group was formed in 2008, and slowly and steadily we went back to our backward integrations. Sorry. Okay. Okay. We are basically into various sectors, and all the industries are related to each other and empowering, giving us synergy energy solutions. We are into an OMC, farming, logistics, and production of ethanol, packaging, and various other verticals made from one single product, that is only from agriculture and agriculture waste. Okay. We are particularly basically talking about today cassava and sugarcane and molasses. We have completely, and we have set up a plant producing ethanol from agriculture waste and agriculture products. There is a beautiful product in Zambia which is grown, even in a drought registered farm product, which is called cassava. I'll talk more about cassava and molasses. Cassava, we are utilizing each and every product of cassava, right from the leaves, stems, and the tubers. If I say the leaves, which has got 60% carbohydrates, and the stems also has got 60% carbohydrates, we are utilizing that product to produce a product called CBG, that's compressed natural bio CNG, which is used as an LP. It's an alternative for an LPG having same CV value. It's like a calorific value is same as good as LPG. So we are utilizing the same gas to produce and to use in our other verticals in glass industries and other. We are even planning to have that same CBG installed in our transport logistics to run that from the gas to run the trucks to go to Dar es Salaam and Beira and fetch all the goods from that. The waste out of that digester, which is an organic waste, agriculture's organic waste, we are utilizing them in a very fantastic way. We are producing pellets. That's an agriculture pellets, which is having a CV value not less than 3,500 value, which is an replacement to the coal. We are putting these pellets into the boiler while producing the ethanol, a valuable product where we are missing out and replacing to the coal. It has got a CV value of 3,500, and that boiler which we are putting the pellets is generating a power plant. It's generating a power 2.4 megawatt power. We are producing from the same waste. We are producing power, and that's for 2.4 megawatt. What is the waste of the boiler is also, it's a very good charcoal, biochar, which goes back into the farm, and it's very good potash, having very good potash and very good to the family of the potato family, like to cassava and potatoes, sweet potatoes, and everywhere. While producing the this thing, ethanol, the process generates a lot of CO2. So that CO2, instead of venting it out, we are the first company to process that CO2 and give it to the fizzy drinks company, to the meat processing companies, where they are utilizing that CO2 as a cold storage, because the temperature for the CO2 when it's been compressed and purified, it goes to around like minus 71 degrees, which can sustain 10 times more than the ice cubes, which can go up to like 8 to 10 hours without the product getting damaged to that one. We even have one more product out of it. We are producing while producing the ethanol. Ethanol is also a product, very good product, and we are pursuing the government to blend 20% into our fuel, in our fuel, fossil fuel. Now, which if the policy we are pursuing and the government agrees to it, we can bring down the cost by bringing the entire ecosystem. We can bring down the cost by 10% of the fuel. It can even help us in getting our foreign exchange going out of the country. It can retain in our country again. Then the job creations, the employment from the grassroots level, the economic, the entire Zambian economy will turn around from the grassroots level. The farmers, where we are doing the farming, and this will be earning a lot of money, bringing a lot of farm equipments, modernizing themselves, because when they have power, when they have the money, the persons will be empowering themselves in bringing the upbringings of themselves. And the same money which is going to come into circular into the economy and giving us entire chain value where people will be spending more, bringing importation more, and the entire economic circle will be turning around. The one more product when we are producing ethanol, the waste which produces is a spent wash. The spent wash is nothing but a very good organic fertilizer. It's in liquid form. You can spray into your farms and get rid of the water and even the fertilizer at the same time. So this is what we as a Surya, we've been steadily supplying, producing ethanol out of it. Ethanol is also a very fascinating subject. It can be produced from any starch materials, meaning rice, even the FRA waste, where we have the maize, rotten maize, wheat, sorghum, even sugarcane, molasses, sugarcane juice, cellulose technologies, and the world has been becoming a very advanced where cellulose technology is coming, meaning from the waste dry grass also ethanol can be produced, which can really bring a very good value addition to the country by bringing down the fuel pricing, bringing job creations, bringing greener revolution in the country, and bringing into money into the people's hand. We are so this is the entire process would like to show you where we are buying maize, sorghum, molasses, wheat, FRA waste, and there's a fermentation process going on. That fermentation process, which releases the CO2, which can be used into fizzy drinks and industrial fire extinguishers and other places. It can be used in mines also to cool down their furnaces and everything. The CO2 is the best factor, whether there is no oxygen available, so the combustions won't happen. The CO2 itself will cool down the equipments very fast. The boiler which is used for processing an ethanol generates steam. Between the generation of the steam and the product, we have a turbine which runs on steam turbine, which generates power for the entire industry itself, and an excess power can be connected to the grid while giving it to the country shortages. The steam and the distillation process, it's where the main ethanol has been produced. Ethanol has two products. One is ENA, that's an extra neutral alcohol, which is being used into the beverages, alcohol beverages. The second one is an absolute alcohol, which is being used into the blending of the fuel. It's a 20% policy or 25, 50%. Even in Brazil, it has gone up to more than 50%. India has got a goal of 2030 reaching 25%. Our neighboring countries like Malawi and Zimbabwe have been having the same policy from 42 years back. Those policies were introduced in Malawi. So the country is, we are still having the pursuing government to have this policy bringing it as soon as possible. After the distillation, what comes out is a spent wash. Spent wash is nothing but an molasses or the slope from the starch, which has got very good NPK. You can have either have it liquid way or a dry way and put it in your farms, which helps to bring the fertilizer cost drastically by 50-60% down. And an organic product is having a more value in the market in the western side and other places where we don't use fossil fertilizers. It is completely an organic farming. When we have a digester, that's where the methane comes out. Methane contains two products, basically CO2 and a very good combustion LPG. So that has like fizzy drinks. Again, it goes to domestic use for like industrial vehicles. You can put up into the cascades and give it to the hotels, give it to the malls where LPG has been required in a major sector. In India, currently, 90% of the vehicles have been run on the same CBG, and it has brought down the cost of the fuel by almost like 80% to that. Vehicles are same, no need of modifications, nothing. Just a small kit has been added by them to protect the engines and this. What comes out from the biogas digester, it's a pellets and organic waste, which I've again explained to you. It goes back into the boiler to generate steam and product and everything. And that's how the waste goes back to the farm and as an ash and everything. So this is what right now Surya is doing. And Surya has have plenty verticals which are based on the same principles that we will be eco-friendly, we'll be eradicating completely fossil fuel from our industry, and that principles we are completely working and having a very good returns from the same ideology. today. Thank you very much for this. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Please join Mafipe. Kindly hold your questions. Kaupesh will be on the panel discussion that will be coming. So if there's time, then we can pose the questions after. In the interest of time, I'll just quickly call on the next speaker, and this is Chilumba Mutale, the innovation lead for Yaka Investment Limited. Over to you. And you have 10 minutes.
All right. Thank you so much. You're all looking smart and energetic, and I'm sure you are ready for my presentation. So, like she said, my name is Chilumba Mtale, the innovations lead for Yaka Investments Limited. So, basically, I'll give a bit background about our company, which is a startup company. So Yaka Investments dates back from 2015. That was November when it was registered. This is a company that was started by students at the Copperbelt University. So from 2015 to 2020, Yaka has been doing research on the waste management sector in Zambia. And in 2020, that's when we developed our first innovation, which was the Yaka incinerator bin. This is simply an incinerator that incinerates waste as well as capture the emissions. Then recently, we've been working on the first e-waste recycling plant, and that's what I'll be presenting on today. So e-waste is a growing crisis, not only in Zambia, but also across Africa. And as you can see from the image there, in 2019, it was only about 53.6 metric tons, and it is projected to be around 110 metric tons by 2050. So this is one of the most growing streams compared to plastics and other e-waste. So first of all, I want to highlight some of the challenges, and this is based on Yaka, some of the challenges associated with e-waste in Zambia. So number one, and I'm sure this was mentioned in the morning by Mr. Andrew, improper e-waste disposal. So most of the e-waste, most especially from households, ends up in the landfills because waste management companies don't separate e-waste, they just mix up everything. There you go to the landfills. Then we also have weak policy enforcement, which is a big problem. Though in Zambia, e-waste is categorized as a hazardous waste. There is no policy to direct really the organizations on, there are no systems in short. I'm sure Mr. Andrew highlighted much on this. Then we also have corporate resistance due to lack of incentives. And I'm sure I'm going to share more on that as we go on with our presentations. We've quite approached a number of companies whereby they are not willing to release their e-waste. I don't know what's causing that really, but I'm sure I'll go through the report which has been represented in the morning to see more about that. And from that image there, you can see that a ton of e-waste produces more gold than a ton of a gold ore, which is quite interesting. So our solution, this year we launched the first e-waste recycling plant in Zambia. So most of the e-waste that was collected by companies in Zambia, mostly maybe it was exported. I don't know much about that. But for us, we are turning these challenges into a solution for a greener and more sustainable future. So that's just part of the image of our e-waste recycling plant. So it uses density to separate it uses density to separate when you crush. So there's a crusher where you crush the e-waste. Then now after crushing the e-waste, this machine, it has a pump, so it uses water. So it uses the principle of density to separate the material, which is the metal, from the waste. So we are providing a safe and emission-free processing. So as usual, we don't have any emissions since we are only using a crusher uh, uh, and water. So there's nothing like burning anything. So it's emission-free. Then our solution, this is good news, has also been licensed as by ZEMA. So for those who are not familiar with ZEMA, ZEMA is Zambia Environmental Management Agency, and they've certified us to, they've given us a license to manage electronic waste in Zambia. So like I mentioned, we recover valuable materials. So our plant recovers mainly copper. So the metal which is recovered from our plant is mainly copper. 90% of it is copper, which we now sell to the metal processing companies so that they're able to use it in their processing. So like I said, we launched this in January. So from January, we've been able to recycle 1.5 tons of e-waste, which we got from Impala. I'm sure we've heard of Impala 10 minutes. It's a company in Ndola. So our plant is in Kitwe. So Impala was one of the first companies to give us access to their e-waste. Of course, at a cost, our own transportation. This is different from the waste at home. It's you who has to pay a company. So I'll explain more on that, on the challenges. So from the 1.5 tons of e-waste, we've been able to recover 300 kgs of copper, which we can then sell to the metal processing companies. Then for every ton of e-waste that we recycle, we are cutting 5 tons of carbon emissions. And I'm sure this is true because if you look, for example, at an old TV, there are those TVs we used to use like 10 to 15 years ago. The TVs, my sister calls it a TV with the big stomach. So those, by now, most of them are part of e-waste. And imagine if that lands to a landfill where it's going to be burnt. Now imagine the amount of emission which is going to produce from there. But for us, there is no emission, there's nothing. So we are cutting carbon emissions. So these are some of the challenges faced. So one of them is corporate hesitation due to, like I mentioned, enforcement. So there is nothing like policy on how e-waste should be handled. And so I don't know if it also has to do with the mindset. Like the organizations that we've approached, some of them, they want to hold on to the e-waste. I don't know what they keep it for. Like if something is, I don't know. But let's look at our second point. So we've reached out to companies. So our team, which is mostly based on the Copper Belt, we've reached out to companies like Mopani, CEC, Zamtel, FQM, and other government ministries. So we are trying to work with both policymakers and these other companies. But the process, of course, like I've said, it's very slow and frustrating. So this is waste, but people still want to hold on to it. So I don't know, maybe they hope someday it will recover or something like that. Yeah, so I think there's need for sensitization on that, and there's need for government to provide a policy direction on that as well. So that was the e-waste that we collected from Impala terminals in Dola. And that was about 1.5 tons of e-waste, which we recycled into metals. So like the presentation in the morning said, e-waste is there, but now it's just that there are no systems. And this is not a problem that we as Yaka can address alone. We need to collaborate with other entities as well. So we also have limited policies make the situations worse. I've already explained on that. Then, of course, the successes were Zambia's first e-waste recycling plant. And as a startup company, we are really proud of that. And we hope to build on that and continue to develop. So the Zema license is another success that we've recorded, and we are very much grateful to Zema. The process was smooth. Then we also have recycled 1.5 tons this year, which is a great achievement. And we'll continue having conversations with these companies, Zamtel, FQM, Mopani, and other companies that have electronic waste. So we've also recovered 300 plus kgs of copper. So what's next? So we want to expand our operations. So though we've gone through all these challenges, ZRA, you always have to clear your task. And as a startup, so we want to expand our operations. So we are not giving up. We'll continue with these conversations because we know that recycling is the future. FQM just mentioned that they have to do more mining of copper. Now imagine if they are doing more mining, then there's also comes recycling of copper. Then that is going to make their efforts a little bit easier, right? Then we can also talk of, we hope to engage both the government and the private sector. So we hope maybe the government will make a policy direction where all e-waste management companies will be mandated to separate the waste, because when it ends up in landfills, I tell you, it can be a serious disaster because e-waste contains harmful substances such as mercury, lead, which can leach into our water systems. And as he said, there are people exposed to these things in landfills. I don't know what they go there to look for exactly, but there are people who go there so they can be exposed to these things. Then these things can also, these substances can also get in our soils and also in our water systems, which can be a huge danger. So we need to support this initiative. So our vision is to attain continental leadership in e-waste recycling. Yeah, of course we've started and we hope to do more. Then just an emphasis that together, this is not something that can be achieved by Yaka alone. We all need to preach recycling. Thank you so much.
Chilumba posed a very important question. Why are we hoarding electronic waste? Maybe we think they'll become collectibles someday. Who knows? But thank you so much for those insights. I think there's a call for collaboration, for partnership. So please do reach out. I know he's not on the panel. Unfortunately, because of time, if there are any questions, we do have the cocktail hour. I do encourage everybody to reach out, to engage. Please do make use of that time. We will get straight into the next session, which is looking at energy case studies before we move to the panel discussion. And so I would like to call on Courtney Paisley from Sunny Money, and she will be taking us through how Sunny Money's solar take-back scheme is kickstarting the off-grid solar repair economy. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. I think I need to invest in a professional picture. So I am from SolarAid, but you probably know us better as Sunny Money. So Sunny Money, Zambia, is the social enterprise which is owned by the charity SolarAid. And Sunny Money tries to reach the most rural off-grid communities in order to provide them access to lighting solutions, things to charge their phone, really small systems though. We're not talking about big systems. I'm just curious, how many of you have potentially bought something from Sunny Money? Great. Has any of them stopped working? Yes. Okay. We will talk afterward. So that's, I'd like to hear more about that. But, Sunny Money's been in Zambia for a long time. And, we sort of came to this, we're doing something good. We're making sure that the most rural off-grid communities can access these lights. But what happens when they stop working? And that was a question we started asking ourselves and saying, actually, we have a responsibility to start looking at this. So I am the global repair lead for Solar Aid. And we're looking at starting, really to kickstart the repair economy in small solar, but also other appliances too, but all off-grid solar products. So why did we start doing this? Well, there is some research which shows that over 250 million solar products in Africa, which is 75% of the products sold across the continent to date, have fallen into disrepair. So these are products which can be life-saving products for a lot of people, and they are no longer working. But, and I'll go into some of the research, we found that about 89% of those are still in the household. So as was just mentioned, people are holding on to these things. They are keeping them in their house. They're holding on to them. And a lot of them are repairable. The customers that we've talked to, they all want repair. They all want to access that, but it's last mile customers that suffer the most. So being able to access repair facilities, it's the most rural people that really suffer. And then we're looking at what does that contribute to growing levels of unnecessary e-waste. So this is why we started this take back scheme. This was in 2019, and we wanted to understand it a bit more. What was actually happening to these lights? So what we did was we basically contacted our network. We work through agents who go out and sell these products to really rural areas. And we said, look, we're doing this take back scheme. If you bring your non-working light, we'll give you a voucher off a new one, maybe 20%, 25%. It varied depending on the light. And a lot of people did not want to give their lights back. And they said, this is worth more than actually this voucher that you're giving us, even though it's not working anymore. It's not working. It's just sitting in their house. But there was really a hope for repair. There was a hope that at some point that this light would start working again, this phone charger, whatever they had. And there was a real value placed on those products. And there is. I mean, it is worth more. There's a lot of material there, as we're talking about. But yeah, people were just keeping them in the home. But so then we gathered as many as we could. We opened them up, we looked and we tested them. And we found that about 90% of the ones we were looking at were repairable. It's mostly the batteries, which is not surprising. There are PCBs as well. So that 90% includes PCBs and wires as well. But really, batteries, 3 to 5 years maybe, and they'll stop working. This is just a natural thing that happens to products. But the big problem is, you can't access these spares. Spares are incredibly difficult. The high quality spares, if you go into a small town, you will find a rechargeable battery which lasts maybe 3-4 days and then it stops working. You go into Lusaka and you try to find these spares and you cannot get them. We go to manufacturers and we try to get these spares and they are very reluctant to provide them. We tried to find them on Alibaba. We tried to find them everywhere. The challenge is they're different sizes and they're not interoperable. So it's a really big problem. We can't access good quality spares. That's our number one challenge. We did find a limited repair technician knowledge. So we also went to different repair agents across Zambia and we sat with them. And we said, when you get something new that you don't know how to fix, how do you fix it? And they said, well, we just go on YouTube and we watch videos. And that's how we learn how to repair things, which is fair enough. So we created something called the Sunny Money Repair app, where we basically, it's on the Google Play Store if you're interested. And we basically broke down the different components on how to repair these so that this is actually available for repair technicians if they get these products. They can look to see what the problem is. It's like a problem tree. They diagnose it. Because we also then went to these repair, also our agents as well. So ours power in order to solder things on. But so those were some of the themselves and some. But there is a strong desire in networks and saying, look, you can warranty, no problem. So when we did the trainings, we now have. Many were happy to download the repair app, and everybody wanted their light repaired. repair knowledge, just for these, for some very technical repair knowledge, and the high cost of last mile logistics. So you might hear from companies like, oh, well, we take back lights. But someone to get from a rural area for us to reach those last one, you could open them up. Some required, and this is one product in Europe. And the cost of spares affordable, which the last mile, some people unwilling to give us information. Percent of distributors said, well, we offer was a consensus on these are we're basically these issues. This is no